Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we are at chapter 9, the last verse, very, very important verse, verse 34 that we'll be doing today. And this verse is so important that Krishna Bhagavan repeated this verse word by word up to 3/4 of the verse in chapter 18 when he was again giving the bottom line to Arjuna, and that most famous verse that we do, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. This particular verse precedes that, from there. So you can imagine. And this verse is also like almost the sar of this chapter. What is Krishna Bhagavan trying to tell and why? So, with that background, we will go to the verse. 1 second. Can I go to my right page? Yes. So the verse is Manmana bhava mad bhaktaha madhyaji mam namaskuru mame veshyasi yuktvaitvam atmanam mad parayanaha. So what are the words? Manmana, with the mind filled with me. Bhava, be you. बोलते हैं ना आयुष्मान भव, सौभाग्यवती भव ऐसे बोलते हैं ना, तो ये भव वर्ड मीन्स you may be manmana bhava, So we'll go more in detail with manmana what it means. Mad bhaktaha, my devotee, become my devotee. Madhya ji, यहाँ पर लिखा है one sacrificing to me. Basically, offering everything that we do to him. And there is already a verse in this. This is just kind of summarizing that. And mam is me. Namaskuru. नमस्कार करना जो आया है वर्ड, जो हम लोग एक दूसरे को नमस्ते वगैरह बोलते हैं, वो इधर से आया है. Namaskuru, bow down, but a much deeper meaning of what it means. Mam to me, eva, alone. Eshyasi, you shall come, means you become one with me. That's what it means. Yuktva, having united. So ये जो पूरा योग शास्त्र है उसका summary दिया. Because remember, in the beginning, Krishna Bhagavan said, I'm going to tell you the secret, how to get to you. So this is like a summarizing the secret. Evam is thus Atmanam, the self, means yourself uniting with me. Mat parayanaha, taking me as a supreme goal. So we use this word parayan, like we say Geeta parayan we are doing, and there are several meanings. So the deep meaning of it is that you become totally dedicated to that particular thing, a goal or some a thing. So that's what it parayan over here. So with all that word meaning, we'll see more detail. And because it was such an important verse, Nikhilanandji had a lot to say about it, so we will go in more detail about what it is. Okay. So man mana bhava. What does man mana bhava means? Let your mind be in me. Place your mind in God. But if we have to translate that to it, in our modern language, what do we mean? Develop interest in God. Like the quest starts, hey, who am I? Where am I coming from? And then he was explaining that how sometimes to children, when suppose if we are doing homework with them and, we sit with them and then you tell them something and they don't listen to you and say, तुम्हारा मन कहाँ पे है? मन लगाओ इसमें. हम लोग इंडिया में बोलते थे ना हमारे पेरेंट, पढ़ाई में मन लगाओ. That kind of idea is over here, that, place your mind in him. And so, because sometimes physically you may be sitting somewhere. I have to put mute some. Okay. Physically you may be sitting somewhere, mind is somewhere else, it's not going to work. So that from that context. So place in mind, it means what? Develop interest in the supreme reality. And then we open it further. What does the developing interest mean? That our emotions, our emotional energy, psychological energy also should be directed towards God. Because unless that is done, we won't be able to place our mind in it. So, that kind of thing. And develop interest is not superficially, like that, but deep interest in God, that supreme reality. And what is that supreme reality? It is my own self. That's why the inquiry, who am I? And if that becomes a burning thing, you will reach the goal. And usko bolte hain man mana bhava. And then we will see some more ideas also. And then next one he says, mad bhaktaha. So man mana bhava mad bhaktaha. Bhakta, obviously, we all know the bhakti, devotion. And they all related. Because jab man lagega, wo devotion ki, it's like a catch-22. One feeds on the other, You develop interest, means you are devoted to it. So dedicate. And then next one is madhyaji, means, offer all the actions to me. So mad bhakta also has that meaning in it, dedicate all action to me. All these words, they flow into each other, So that's another thing that we have to, it's not like sitting in a separate box, That's why, Gyan Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, they all kind of blend into each other. And then, another way of looking at it is that once you place your mind in God, then automatically love for God will increase, that you will realize after understanding who God is, that everything is God only. Then, you develop that bhakti also. And then madhyaji, another way of looking at it is serve God, work for Him, And, but then another very important thing we have to come back, and I think Nikhilananji has said this many times, and it's a very, very important point, that when we use, who God is, he's saying madhyaji and mad bhakta, man mana bhava, but we should have a very clear idea about who God is, not have some kind of confusion, because then it will not fit properly. And who is God? That is already Krishna Bhagavan started from chapter 7. And in the early part of this chapter, he already said all those things. So sometimes it's good to go back and read all those things again. So, and then another thing that we have mentioned it many times, and I'll repeat it over here, that when Krishna Bhagavan says, worship me, it doesn't mean Krishna in a particular body or image. That can be our symbol. That's not a problem. But when he talks about God, it's like the whole cosmos together, totality, things like that. That we have to remember. Because Bhagavan himself said that I exist in all beings, I am everywhere. So it's like when we say serve God, it doesn't mean just going in the mandir and doing that's also great. Nobody's saying that. That's like a symbolic. But it's like serving everybody around you is serving God. And I think that, Meenaji and Sushilji will identify with that. We have a pledge, right, in our Chinmaya Mission, that we say the pledge every time. And parts of the pledge are service to the country is service to the Lord of Lords. And devotion to the people is devotion to the Supreme Self. So that's the kind of thing we have to understand, that when he says, devotion, that doesn't mean some directed to one particular sect or anything like that. So, and then worshipping also means, dedicating all actions to Him and emotional energy and all that. We saw that. And then there is a verse, verse 27 that we did, and just to remind you, what did that verse say? It said, whatever you do, whatever you think, or whatever you worship, charity, austerity, everything you dedicate to me, right? So this is what it means. And so that is madhyaji, when you say what does madhyaji means. And then the next one was namaskuru. So when we say, namaskar, okay, physically we do this, but what is the deep meaning? I think that now, because of the internet and all that, there's so much is coming out that what does doing namaskar to somebody mean? I see God in you. I'm bowing down to the God in you. That is the meaning. So seeing God in the whole world and yourself and others, that's what it means, namaskar. Seeing all together. So now, all different things, when you see, say, develop interest in God, develop love for Him, worship Him, namaskar to Him, if you do all that, you automatically become mat parayanaha, means you are dedicated to that God. That's what it means. And then, and in another language, we can say that our mind, intellect, physical body, our whole energy is directed towards God when we live like this. So, what summarizing this particular thing right now, that if I'm interested in God, I love God, I work for Him, I do namaskar, consider Him great, and all that what does that mean? That I consider Him great and surrendering to that greatness. So that's the relationship, because God is everything around here. So, and then another thing that he wanted to tell us, Nikhilanandji, that namaskar also means the path of total surrender. Remember, he talked about it a lot in different, that when there's a total surrender to him, that's when you get the moksha. So this namaskar also represents that. And then, technically speaking, the three words, manmana, madbhakta, and madhyaji. Manmana is a path of knowledge. Madbhakta is path of bhakti, and madhyaji is part of karma. So he summarizes all three in this. So important. So in a modern language, let God be in your thoughts, emotions, and action. Simple. And then finally, when you have all this, surrender to God. And then mat parayan, you can also say total dedication. What will happen when all this happens that he's talking about? Such a person, Bhagwan says, mama eva eshyasi, means such person comes to me alone. What does come to me alone? It will have a total identification with that Brahman. Attain oneness that we talk about. And that whole oneness is going to come in that Taittriya Upanishad that we are doing. There is a, synchronicity going on in both the, Taittriya and here. And then attain oneness, meaning same thing, attain moksha or enlightenment. And then the other word he used, yuktva evam atmana. So somebody say, how do I do that? By being totally tuned to me. So that's another word that I think Nikhilanandji likes, is tuning to Bhagwan. Tune to him, you attain him. So this is the very beautiful verse, given sar of this entire spiritual path, if you think about it, because, bhakti, gyan, karma, yoga, everything is here. And then when Bhagwan repeated this verse in the 18th chapter, so first line is exact, he repeated, man mana bhava mad bhakta madhyaji mam namaskuru. Another one, half of it, mame veshyasi. And then he said, mame veshyasi satyam te, I'm telling you the absolute truth. And then he said, prati jane priyosi me. That's how he ended it, instead of saying mat parayana, because he's directly addressing to the Arjun. Because the way it happened in chapter 18 was, he said to Arjun, I have told you everything now, but then I want to repeat it one more time. Then he says this verse, and that those words, prati jane priyosi me, means know very well, because you are so dear to me. Like I'm giving you everything that I got, because I love you so much, kind of thing. It was so sweet. The way Krishna Bhagwan said it over there. So this is, and then he said, sarva dharman parityajya, why just sab kuch chhod de tu. Just surrender to me and I'll give you everything. I'll give you moksha. Itna usko bola. So it's very, very important. That's why I kind of jumped the gun and I told you about the future, what he's going to do. So, and then, it's like Nikhilanandji, towards the end of his lecture, he was saying, he wanted to go again to Manmana Bhava, because he felt the same way. Thoda aur inko batana chahiye mujhe,
Okay.
Let's see, whose thing is not... somebody's...
Yours is okay.
Okay, I think it's Joe's. Okay, all right. So, Manmana Bhakt mein unhone kya kaha, important point, that, hey, what does it mean, place your... For us, in this 21st century, we want to know, what does it mean, Manmana Bhakta? So he kind of gave some more tips. He's saying that study about him, read about him, read the scriptures, talk about God, and that's what we are doing, right? In this, contemplate upon Him, understand Him. Don't have this vague idea about God and misunderstanding about God and all that. He's saying that don't start following the general misunderstanding that people have in the world or the communities. First, if we have not read Shastras, we say, what is Hinduism? Itna confusion. Hinduism, they only talk about like caste system, too many gods, and abhi to khair kafi kuch change ho gaya, but I'm sure some of us came in the 70s, 80s or something like that. In the beginning, there's India means for some snake charmers, some backward people and things like that. He's saying that don't have this crazy idea about India, because it's such a wonderful, great teaching we have. So look at the greatness that what they are talking about, so don't just get stuck into all those things, because he was saying sometimes, when people talk like that, we don't even try to correct them, like in Punjabi, they say, ki farak penda hai, forget, let them think what they want. So he said, you should, understand it yourself and correct it if other people are saying wrong things, because I think that's what Chinmayananji tried to do too. When he came from the Himalayas, there was so much misunderstanding, and like in Chinmaya Mission, they always say, go back to the source. Hey, what is Krishna Bhagavan saying? And right now, I'm reading Valmiki Ramayana. My dad had given me this translation from Geeta Press, Gorakhpur. There are Sanskrit verses, 24,000 verses. There are 2 big fat books, and they're Hindi translation directly. And they say that, every spiritual organization says that Valmiki Ramayana is a historical account. What exactly happened? And the interesting thing is, all the popular stories that we have of Ramayana does not exist in Valmiki Ramayana. There's no Lakshman Rekha there. I have not come to that, but I have heard I'm going to come. I'm in halfway there where Ram is in the almost towards the end of Vanvas now. Sita Haran hua nahi hai abhi. That's where I am. And the way the Swayamvar happened is not the popular way that we see. Hinone dhanush toda tha, magar different circumstances mein. There was no like big drama that happened around there. The hundreds of people were together. There were different people came at different times. So there's so many different things is there, and kevat ka pura wo nahi hai, story nahi hai usme. It doesn't mean that whatever we hear, it's not good. That has a different purpose, like bhakti jagane ke liye, ye sab karne ke liye. उन्होंने बहुत सारा embellishment किया है, but original स्टोरी में ये सब नहीं है. मतलब राम का इतना ऐसा कैरेक्टर स्ट्रॉन्ग और वो सब दिखाया डिफरेंट है. You get a direct thing, and that is also very beautiful, So it has both have value, but we should not kind of discount that what historical account is also. That's why I'm saying, bringing this up. So, because Nikhilanandji brought this interesting point that we should have this understanding about Hinduism, because it's based on this great grand vision of oneness. And he's saying everything else that is details of it. Nothing more than that. All the rituals, everything we do, the essence is that oneness. And we should know that very, very well. And if you, he's saying if you want to forget something, you can forget the details, but please don't forget the essence. That's what he was trying to say. It's okay. Sab rituals ko bhul jao, ye karo, to bhi it's not. But ritual ka jo, kya bolte hai, uska kahan se aaya hai, wo mat bhulo. That's what he was trying to say. I thought that a very, very important point he said. And he's saying that once you have that vision of oneness, whoever had it, like we have so many saints and sages, right? Kabir Das ji, and Sikhon ke Guru Nanak Dev ji, all of them had that oneness of the vision. And after they have the oneness, the way they behave becomes a dharma. So where is dharma coming from? That we look up to these people with oneness, and then whatever they prescribe, we follow. That's how it becomes. The whole religion comes out of that, or the whole practices come out of that, because dharma rises from the experience of oneness. So that was it's not the other way around. And then another point he was saying that once somebody established himself in that great experience of oneness, then the way he walks and talks becomes a path for others, because that's exactly what chapter 2, Sthita Prajna Lakshan, क्या बोलते, characteristic of man of steady wisdom, in English we say, is becomes, the Shastras and all that. Because once that person has that experience of oneness, he will have automatic love for entire being, everything in this universe, And whatever he does is just not like a time pass or anything. It becomes expression of wisdom, And we have a book in Chinmaya Mission with somebody kind of compiled everything, and uska book ka naam hai Every Breath a Teaching. Because after Chinmaya ji came down and then was teaching everybody, people used to observe that how he would behave and all that, and there was so much teaching in everything he did, what he said, how he behaved with people, and then there were so many miracles also happening around him, and Chinmaya ji never gave importance to miracles. But they were happening around him. So somebody compiled everything together, because, it's like whatever they do becomes wisdom for everyone. So because their whole life becomes expression of wisdom. That's another way of looking at it. And then he said that he was explaining that sometimes with time modification needs to be done on it. Because sometimes you can't get stuck in, they did 500 years ago like that. We may not need to do change with time, but the wisdom remains the same. And that's why, like, for example, in Bhagavat Gita, when we were in the chapter of meditation, Krishna Bhagavan was telling Arjuna, sit on a kusha grass, and all that. The Swamiji said, you don't have to go to the jungle and bring kusha grass to meditate. You can take a blanket, because there's a reason why he said, usme sweat vagara nahi aata hai. So you kind of come up with a modern thing. So that's what we have to do. So I thought that was an important point he brought out. So I wanted to share it with all of you. So what is, in a nutshell, we come back to this verse that place the mind in God, be interested in God, let your thought and understanding and contemplation be about God. That's Gyan Marg. Develop great affection, love, reverence, and respect for God. That's Bhakti Marg. And we know Karma Yoga, dedicate all actions to Him. Whatever you do, let it be for service of God. And obviously serve, your country, your surroundings, everyone, whoever you come across. And then finally surrender to God. That is Namaskar. Dedicate yourself means surrender. And so karma, bhakti, gyan, and total surrender. And if we follow this path, then you will come to me, or you will attain me, and totally, because you are matparayan, totally tuned to me. So that's how this whole verse is. Chapter ended. Any question, comment? Anybody wants to add anything? Silence. Okay, I guess.
You explained so nicely that there is no need to ask.
Okay, thank you. It's Krishna Bhagwan and all the commentaries of all the great sages. Okay, Meeraji, would you like to read?
They are expert.
Sure, thank you. Fix your mind on me, be devoted to me, sacrifice to me, bow down to me, having thus united your whole self to me, taking me as the supreme goal, you shall come to me. This stanza under review is a beautiful summary of the entire chapter, inasmuch as it throws a beam of light over its shoulders to flood the entire chapter with a better understanding. We may say that this stanza especially serves as a commentary to more than one verse in the same chapter.
So
stanzas 14 and 27.
correct. So 14, and you can go back and look at it later. So just to remind you, the 14 was Satatam Kirtayantam Mam, continuously think about me. That was and 27, we already discussed, whatever you do, you dedicate to me, whatever your austerity, your charity, yagna, everything. So that's what it means. So here, and I was just thinking that if somebody has never read Bhagavad Gita before and they come to this verse, suppose directly, they will say, Krishna Bhagavan is very egotistic. He's telling you, fix your mind to me, devote to this. So, so it's like you have to understand who is me first, right? That's exactly what, Nikhilananji was saying, that it is that Brahman he's talking about. So I already discussed that how this verse is a chapter summary literally, and all the verses kind of culminate into this one.
In all textbooks of Vedanta, Brahma Vidya, the technique of self-development and self-perfection through the paths of right knowledge and meditation has been defined as contemplation on that, talks on that, mutual discussions on that, and thus to live ever mentally drowned in the bliss concept of the spiritual reality, and is called by the knowers of it as the pursuit of the Brahman. Keeping this classical definition in mind, Vyasa steadily delineates his aesthetic path of devotion in this stanza. The same idea has already been brought out earlier in the chapter or on more than one occasion.
So he's just telling you that, there is a word called Brahma Jigyasa, right? Or like, who is God? And it can be who am I also is the same thing, because you will come to the same conclusion. Some kind of interest has to spark, and then you will automatically do these things that drown in you will want to discuss, you will want to find out, and now with YouTube and all, you can listen to so many podcasts, and then slowly all clarity keeps coming, and then you develop the devotion once you know who God is. So we already discussed in detail about that, but that's what he's talking about.
With the mind ever filled with me, my devotee makes all sacrifices, all salutations to me at all times, whatever be the type of work that engages him. In brief, the evolution of the mind is the very essence of all spiritual reformation in life. Neither the conditions in which we are, nor our circumstances and habits, nor the available ways of life, nor our past, nor our present, none of these is a bar for evolving spiritually.
So I would, underline this. I have underlined it way back then, and I put in so many different colors because we have gone over it so many times, probably in the last 30 years. Very important. Because koi bhana nahi chalega. That's what it's telling you. Your circumstances, nothing is a bar, and we saw. The most durachari can also do this. So there is no condition. On one hand, like Gyan Marg mein, there will be like, oh, you have to, pura list bataya. But, to be devoted to this marg, what it is that once you get devoted to this path, automatically purity of mind starts happening. That's what it is. So you have to start somewhere if you want to start, have the Brahma Jigyasa, or, this idea that, hey, I want to find out about God, and then everything will fall into place. So I think this is, and then there is another very famous saying, bloom where you are. You've heard of that, right? So Chinmayanand used to say, because we say, oh, agar aisa hota to aisa ho jata, kuch nahi. Whatever you are in, circumstances, you can start from there. No two ways about it. That's what it is,
Constant awareness maintained diligently is the secret of success.
So see how he made this one line. In my book, it is a separate paragraph almost. Because,
Mine too.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
This is another very important, underline this, that in the beginning, he said, no, I'm going to tell you the secret. This is a Brahma Vidya, it's a secret Vidya. What is the secret? Constant awareness maintained diligently. That we're not forgetting. And every time we make a mistake in life, it's because we forget God. Once we have learned who God is, of course. When we forget, that's when we get upset, that's when we get sad. And then when we have the remembrance, all that starts going away. So this constant awareness, maintained diligently, is the secret of. I love this line also.
When thus you take me as the supreme goal, Krishna promises Arjuna, you shall come to me. We are what we are because of our thoughts. If the thoughts are noble and divine, we become noble and divine.
So so we are what our thoughts are. So change the quality and direction of your thought and you got it made. Very simple. I think Swamiji just simplified it in the most beautiful manner, the entire thing. So both the Swamis, they, Nikhilananji went in very much detail about some certain parts, and here Swamiji simplified it for us. So I think both of them have tremendous value to understand this whole thing. Any question, comment? Anyone wants to?
Umaji, what does it mean by when it says sacrifice to me?
Okay, so this is the problem, that when you translate in English, it loses kind of its meaning. It means like whatever action you are doing, you dedicate it to me. Symbolically, what happens is when we do the yajna, we sacrifice anna उसमें डालते हैं, घी डालते हैं, और वो कुछ एक I'm not expert in Sanskrit, उसमें बोलते हैं ये मेरा नहीं है, उससे वो एकदम mama, something like that. I think Kamala ji is not here. She will probably know what does that Sanskrit meaning is, that everything that I do in this world, it's not for me. So you don't have your ego in there. And then because there is another couple of other verses in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Arpanam Brahma Havihi, that one. And there was another one, similar one that came, that in this world, all these actions are happening in the Prakriti. In some ways, we are not the doer. So when you say sacrifice, it's a symbolic way to say that mera kuch bhi nahi hai. And even from the philosophical point of view, बोलते हैं ना दुनिया में अकेले आए हैं बिना कुछ लेके, जाएंगे भी वैसे ही. So जो भी चीजें हैं वो भगवान को ही अर्पण है. That's what it means. So that they have used the word sacrifice, but the deep meaning is, that we are offering it to Bhagwan.
Thank you.
Isn't it, we can say whatever our actions are, whatever we do, that either he's doing through this equipment or that I'm doing it for you.
Both ways it's fine, but we have to be, go ahead.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. That's where I can, because the secular part of the life and the spiritual, this is remember me all the time. How do I remember when I'm doing my secular duties? Is every time whatever I'm doing is you are doing it, or that I'm doing it for you.
Yeah, either one is totally fine. And that's why it's like the example. Sometimes we have a very big confusion. How can I remember God and do my action too? So then the answer given is, do you ever forget who, that you are Meenaji? Do you have to remind yourself? You are acting from that perspective that I am Meena, right? And that is understood. And I'm a female and I'm this, I'm that. I don't have to keep remembering that. It's an awareness that I have. So firstly, understanding who God is and having the awareness that without that consciousness, I am nothing. I'm dust. Because like Swamiji says, once that consciousness connection is broken from the body becomes, the person भी नहीं बोलते हम लोग, उसकी body बोलते हम लोग. कोई मर जाता है, So it just changes the whole dynamics. So from the body perspective, and the mind is also vitalized by that consciousness and all that kind of awareness. So once you know it, it is something like an actor. He got a role. वो इतना immerse हो गया, but somewhere in the back of his mind he knows
Yeah, true. That's exactly because it is there all the time.
Yes.
You don't have to remind yourself, but it is there.
Yeah, yes.
Who is doing it, or either way.
Yes. So it's like once you know who God is, when we do forget completely, that's when we get into trouble. And if whoever has read Bhagavad Gita, when it comes to chapter 18, when Krishna Bhagwan ne sab kuch bol diya usko, sarva dharman parityajya ye wo, फिर अर्जुन ने जो response दिया ना, उसने बोला, I'm going to do what you say, but उसके पहले उसने बोला, smriti labdva, my memory is back. Nashto moha, my delusion is gone. My memory is back. My delusion, that's why I'm going to do whatever you say. So he just said, okay, now I'm not going to forget you. Other words, that was his thing. So even after knowing something, if we start forgetting, then we get into trouble. And if we go back to our own life, every time if I'd see when I got upset, I'd say, yeah, I forgot about that this life is temporary. That discrimination we forgot. Yeah. We think, oh my God, this situation is so bad and this and that. There's nothing bad, just passing phases, Yeah.
There's one more page in my book, the last page.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, are you talking about, one second, are you talking about the yoga royal knowledge and royal secret के बारे में उन्होंने जो बताया? हाँ, तो उसके पहले, because we finished the thing, I will just do this sankalpa vakya, they call it.
Okay.
Om Tatsaditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Raj Vidya Raj Guhya Yogo Nama Navamo Dhyayah. So this is a tradition of Gita because it was orally memorized in those days, not written. And this is how they knew the chapter ended. And the meaning over here is Om, everybody knows. Now it's a symbol of that Brahman. Tat is also referring to that Brahman. Sat. Sat is that truth, which is Brahman. Iti, this Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su. So it's talking about all these Bhagavan only. And Upanishadsu means it's a knowledge from Upanishads. And Brahma Vidyayam, what is the topic? It's knowledge of Brahman. And then Yoga Shastra. It's not only knowledge, but how to get there. The path is also shown. Yoga Shastra means the path. And then how this is shown? Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. It's a conversation between Shri Krishna and Arjuna. And what is the topic of this chapter? Navamodhyaya Raja Vidya Raja Guhya Yoga. That, royal knowledge, secret knowledge. This is the topic. So that's what this means. And now you can read that last paragraph.
Thus, in the Upanishads of the glorious Bhagavad Gita, in the science of the eternal, in the scripture of yoga, in the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, the ninth discourse ends entitled The Yoga of Royal Knowledge and Royal Secret.
So
this chapter has been rightly... Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I already explained. Yeah.
Okay. This chapter has been rightly entitled as the chapter discussing the royal knowledge and the royal secret. These two terms have been already discussed at length. Earlier in the chapter, verse 2, we found that since pure consciousness is the knowledge in whose light all the other conditioned knowledges are made possible, this science dealing with the absolute has been rightly called as the royal knowledge. Elsewhere in the Upanishads, it has been termed as the knowledge of all knowledges because having known which there is nothing more to be known, declares Mundaka Upanishad.
Mundaka Upanishad.
Mundaka Upanishad.
So इसको royal, sorry, yeah. The royal secret is royal knowledge इसके लिए बोला because ये इसकी वजह से बाकी सारे knowledges हमको मिलते हैं because of consciousness. That's one thing. And then when they say Vedant or what is the ultimate knowledge, this is it. The oneness of the universe, if we can understand and establish in it. And that's why it is, uske beyond there is nothing more to be known. The goal of life is done. So, like our teacher used to say that if you ask somebody what is the goal of your life, we get so stuck, we don't know. But actual goal is that final moksha only. We are all striving for that. So uske beyond, then you become that, ultimate. Final exam is done. We are all still in the school. Keep coming back. Earth is a school. That's what our teacher used to say. We're coming to learn our lessons. Let's finish it fast. Graduate. Our parent is waiting. When is the person is going to graduate? We say, नहीं अभी हमको और थोड़ा मजा करना है. Extra curricular activity अभी और करनी है. When you get all bored of extracurricular activities, then we will pay more attention to the final goal. Yeah. Any comment? Question? Really, this verse is quite amazing. I think we should try to memorize this verse, right? There are few words, because it has, once you know the meaning, then once you say it, you will know, right? Once we go through the meaning of it. That's why Swamiji had such a tremendous vision for children, that in the beginning you have them memorize, because the memory power is really very strong of children. Because sometimes, what used to happen in Houston, they have a Geeta chanting competition every year. Yeah? They do it, locally, internationally, and all that. So they start from kindergarten, and they give few verses to kindergarten. People, by the time they go 12th grade, they can say the whole chapter almost. But every year there will be kids who are like 2, 3, 4-year-old who are not yet in kindergarten. वो अपने भाई बहन का सुन के ना, उनको 3-4 इतने अच्छे से याद हो जाते थे. अपनी तोतली भाषा में वो जब बोलते हैं ना, I tell you feel like going and hugging them. And Gaurang Bhai would put them in his lap and say, okay, and give them the mic. And so confidently they will keep chanting. And sometimes you have to say, okay, that's enough now. It was, so the memory power is so strong. So he said, when you're young, usko memorize karo Geeta ko, which I didn't do, because I had never studied, but the logic. And then as they get older, go in the kindergarten or elementary school, then tell them few words, a meaning of it. And then tell them little more. By the time they get to 12th grade, they will be able to understand. Keep giving more deeper meaning. 10th, 11th grade, we do more discussions about it. If they have imagine if they have already memorized it, how easy it will be for them. These verses just start opening up to them. What it is. There are some people who can just quote fatafat, because they have done this process. We kind of missed out on those. But chalo, at least meaning to kar sakte hain abhi, can't memorize. So, if there is no other question, comment, then I can close Bhagavad Gita.
Next time we will start the next book.
You mean the chapter,
chapter
10? Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I have these in separate book form. So.
Yes, so now start keeping chapter 10 with you. It is so beautiful. It's like a poetry. That's another favorite chapter of mine, because it's whoever loves poetry and all, they're gonna love it. When Arjuna will say, okay, now on, even after, it's just our question only. Okay, Bhagwan, you told me so many things. I still have to go tomorrow for my job. How do I remember you? Just like we were talking about. So he said, okay, don't worry, I'll give you another tip. He does not give up, and he does not undermine Arjun's questions either, because they are our questions only. He just makes it so much easier. Krishna Bhagavan does not give up. Arey, 100 baar bol diya, abhi ja, abhi tu apne ghar. He never said that. Whenever Arjuna had something, okay, I will tell you now part. So that's what is going to be in chapter 10. Just to give you a preview. You can give more tips how to remember God. Okay. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhya moksha ishyami ma shuchah. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.